Can you walk me through what happened over the weekend?
Sure, I'm very thankful what David was on saying, and I didn't really go out and try to promote anything. I just don't do that, promote issues. I saw a post, I saw a tweet by David about he and his wife having different limits, and my wife and I encountered that months ago and found out through phone calls on the number that's on your Apple Card in the Apple Wallet. I couldn't really get to anybody who would listen except they'd say, oh, maybe in 3 to 6 months, that sort of thing. So, but I just posted it to be like a little side feature of the article, and it became, I don't know, I didn't expect all this, these results. Funny thing is, Goldman Sachs has been phoning us, and they're doing some incredible things in a very short time. You know, they've introduced this card, their first credit card, and that's very hard to do something new for the first time. I've been there. And so not to have everything in place support-wise for some time is understandable, but they're going out of the way just like Apple would. You know, there were a lot of articles saying, oh, it was alleging gender bias as the only possible explanation. And my wife thought that at first. I didn't. I never used those words and never say that because I know that Apple itself, for example, is the least biased of all the companies, the least discriminatory. We're the only big company in the United States, I think, that guarantees equal pay for equal work by gender. So that was out of the thing. And it was Goldman Sachs. And you know what? They've listened. Maybe because I got involved. I don't like to get special privilege just because of my past, but they got involved and they thought it out, and they're really going to make the changes very soon that will allow you to get to a human. I don't believe looking into the algorithm is the solution. I don't believe that that changing the algorithm is the solution. I think it's somehow being able to get individual attention in cases that the algorithm misses.
Steve, you did mention that part of the problem here is that when you're trying to get someone on customer support for a company of this size, it can be really hard. You said it's too big. Were you talking about Goldman Sachs there? Were you talking about Apple, or maybe a little bit of both?
I'm talking about all the big companies. It can be hard to get to. Apple's actually very good because you've got personal support, human-to-human support in the stores with the employees, with the Apple, the geniuses. And if you got Apple Care. So Apple does a really good job of making good support available. I decided a long time ago in my life that having a good product isn't even as valuable as having good support for whatever you get.
Obviously, when you choose to weigh in on something like this, especially Apple related, it's probably going to get a lot of attention. You said you were a little surprised by how much attention those tweets got. You also mentioned the response you got from Goldman Sachs. Did you hear from Apple as well?
We didn't. I don't think we heard from Apple directly. They were actually contacting my wife, who had contacted them way back months ago and called the phone number, and I guess they had her number to call. And you know what? They said that they're going to have their standard number by the end of the week. Now they were telling us by tomorrow, I guess, is going to actually go through to support people. You know, the idea is to get to humans. And you can't expect instant solutions because there might be, you know, too much income, too much demand and not enough supply for a while. But I'm glad they're talking just exactly right, the way Apple would handle something like this. You know, we're going to get on and we're going to support the customers. I always believe in the customer getting respect over the company just having power. And because they have power and authority, they can be like right when they're really wrong.
Steve, you mentioned that this isn't necessarily just an algorithm issue here, that there might be other solutions, but it is certainly, it starts with the algorithm. Do you think that this is the kind of thing that is reflective of kind of the challenges broader in the tech industry right now?
Oh, a lot of things that algorithms can't handle, things that are different that a human, the dumbest human in the world, could easily look at and come up with the right solutions, including a lot of self-driving issues.
What are the other areas right now where you feel like AI and these algorithms are really, you know, a problem, at least in terms of, again, starting some of these issues?
Yeah, everywhere that we've learned that we can apply computers, we call it AI, but we apply computers to handle everything to avoid humans having to be hired and paid to do the job of supporting people. And that's all the big gig economy companies. I remember once I was getting 100 messages and calls a day for some DoorDasher that put down my phone number. I could not get to that company, email, text, phone calls. There was no way to do it to get to the company to explain my problem unless maybe I got a DoorDash account. I have enough accounts. I don't need another account with my name going on more lists. So you just can't get through to the humans when you need to and when a human would solve it.
It does feel a little ironic that a lot of these big tech problems are kind of requiring human solutions, right? So do you think that the tech companies, Apple included, are really doing enough to grow those kinds of customer service workforces, or what do they need to do to get up to the standard that you would expect from them?
Oh, I've always seen Apple as being one of the best. Of all the companies I deal with that I had to count, I mean, just even for normal, the average Joe, just the normal person, like I don't like get products from Apple free. I just stand in line like everyone else. I go to the store, I order them online early. I just don't want to be in a real privileged category. If somebody offers me something, of course I'll be polite and take it. But I don't want to use my privilege like I'm more important than other people. I don't act like that in my life. If you study me, read my books, you'll see that I'm very different in that way.
What about regulation? Do you think some of this could be solved by the government stepping in and again, not specific to Apple, but telling some of these big tech companies, hey, if you're going to use AI to solve some of these problems, we're going to put some new rules or guardrails around that?
Well, I think it has to be, and it goes back to what I was saying about I've always favored the consumer over the producer, the seller, the big companies, the ones that have power and wealth. I've always I want the consumer to be respected, and the trouble is they aren't going to get taken care of by the companies making their own decisions. The companies work for themselves, so only government can step in to handle the masses. Anything, from road construction on. It just isn't going to happen at the private company level. We'll take care of the problems ourselves. No, I don't buy that.
Steve, one of the things that stood out from your tweets for me was that you had mentioned that you're still a current Apple employee, and I didn't realize that. I'm curious, what are you doing at Apple these days?
I do nothing officially. I get a small paycheck. As a token paycheck, I'm the only person who's had a paycheck every week since we started the company, and I think I put $50 a week in the bank or whatever.
That sounds like a nice gig. Let me know when you figure out how I can sign up for one of those. It sounds like you're not then working on the new AR glasses. I think there was a report coming out that augmented reality glasses may be coming out in the next few years, maybe 2022 from Apple. I'm curious what you think about the AR space more broadly these days. Is this going to be, the phone wars, the new version of the phone wars that we've been experiencing for the past couple decades?
Well, as for, working at Apple and stuff like that, I'm so outgoing and honest, it's kind of hard to actually be working on projects inside. You have to give a lot of that up, and I never have in my life. As far as AR and the upcoming reality, well, it's going to be a contestant, VR too, and who knows, what makes it forever in all of our lives and what doesn't. We'll see. At least, AR, like VR, has a good start with gaming, and that's where personal computers started. So who knows? It's a guess. I don't read analysts and financial pages. I don't deal with money. My wife actually handles all the money in our house, but she doesn't have that good a credit card limit.
What about when you talk about AR in the future here, are you thinking that this is going to be more a battle over the hardware itself, the actual, let's assume that a lot of these companies are building glasses, maybe someday we'll all be wearing AR glasses. Is it a battle over that hardware, or is it going to be whoever controls the operating system on the glasses that's going to win out?
Well, I hope like Apple's early days and the Macintosh days especially, making the hardware and the software, making them work together, guaranteeing the user experience. Companies that do that, both the hardware and the software. And I think the hardware is key because we all know that AR requires specialized hardware. And I'm just waiting for the big one that really, really hits and everyone has to have it. And, we'll wait.